Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Marvel Strike Force. Now, today we're talking. We're going to be going over a topic that has been requested by me by a lot of people, and a lot of you are going through this right now, and that is the return of the Scourge events. Talked about it briefly on the blog post and a little bit in my Discord and things like that, but it's just been a really heated topic right now that people want to get my opinions on as far as whether or not I think it's a good or a bad thing. Now, I think that this does have some implications for the future of Marvel Strike Force. I think this has some implications for the future of Apocalypse and how much of a priority he will be for newer and mid game players. Now, there's a lot of things to kind of consider when it comes to the Apocalypse chase. I'm going to try and cover as best I can most of the things related to that, if I can remember everything, because there's a lot there. But otherwise, if you're ready to go, everybody, then let's boil this down. Now, you might have realized that I wasn't actually on my main account. This is my Boilon baby account that I made like years ago, like a year and a half ago. I don't remember when I quit it. But I did actually start a baby account. Some of you might remember I did do updates on that. The reason why I'm using this, of course, is because it gives me a little bit of example of when I was playing when the Scourge events were coming around, every three months or so, that I was doing the slow drip method on my baby account, like many of you probably were as well. So that's like, when the events come around, I did, I don't know, like 300, 400K, maybe something like that. And I would pick up some shards and then I would get a payout. That's basically, I honestly think it was about 2 years ago, like not too long after the events came out. However, I was able to unlock Morgan Le Fay and Rogue very early on. This was like this was like still in 2022, probably like towards the back of 2022 when I had this account. And it was really huge, right? To be able to unlock them on the second pass with the rank payout. Just to get some background on that. And I guess that I probably quit this before Archangel came around because I don't have any shards for him. So that indicates to me that I never did it, which means I quit this account before December 2022. I think that's when he came out. And then I had about 75 from Red Hulk. I think that was like one iteration of Red Hulk for me. But the main point of just showing this is because, that's kind of how things were back then. And even into 2023, this was pretty normal, I think, for a lot of newer players. Now we don't have that, right? And because my Archangel is 0 shards, I can actually show you what it looks like from the bottom up and sort of what the expectations are now. So, for everyone else, you have to go into the epic campaigns. You'll probably see it there. And depending on how many shards that you have existingly, you're going to be set at a certain milestone already, or you have to reach a certain milestone in order to get more shards. So the reason why I'm bringing up Red Hulk is because I'm 75 out of 100. So to get him unlocked, you typically need to have, I'm not even sure if I think actually 500K is the unlock, but because I have 75 shards, they allowed me to get this 425K because I want to go back to death and I want to show you what it looks like from the bottom up here. And yeah, because 425 is actually 70 shards. So some people like my account, I guess, on War would have been a little bit easier to get them unlocked because normally you're unlocking here from a fresh character at 500K, but I would have been able to unlock Red Hulk at 425. So that's a little bit peculiar. So pretty much for anyone who's starting at 0 shards, you're going to be unlocking the character at 500K. Now, there's a few things that I want to kind of caveat before we go any further, right? And that's Apocalypse, the Apocalypse campaign. Actually, I should have just stayed in the Epic Campaigns tab here because it is down here. So what do you need to get to Apocalypse? Well, to basically, in a nutshell, to get to a baby Apocalypse, which is a 4 yellow to red or something like that, I believe, then you need to have G16 characters at blue for ISO 8, right? You need to have all 23 of the characters, which is all 4 of the teams, plus Castrol Deathpool and Castrol Deathpool and I can't remember, Spider Weaver, to have them all at G16 blue ISO 4. To get Big Apocalypse, you need those same characters at G17 at blue ISO 5. Now, as of recording this and right now, I would argue that the biggest block in the game is the ions. You need roughly 30 million blue 4 ions and I think about 38 million blue 5 ions. You do get a little bit of a refund when you start doing the apocalyptic difficulty in the blue 5 side. I think you get some, not a lot. It's not a crazy amount, but you do get some blue 4 and blue 5 ion refunds. You don't get any gear refunds. It's not like Dark Dimension where you get a significant gear refund. And that's actually why a lot of people didn't like the Apocalypse unlock event over Dark Dimension, because you basically had like no refunds. And that part wasn't fun because you're investing into 23 different characters that, have arguable value now. The people veterans might still use the teams, but as far as newer and mid game players go, a lot of these teams are either out of the meta or are sliding out of the meta or aren't really as important as they were before. Right. And so that's the big problem when it comes for newer players to being able to build this or working towards this. Right. And so let's talk about, so now that there's some background there, let's talk about the unlock itself. Right. For the purposes of this, we're just going to hit on to death. We saw what happened with my Red Hulk. But in order to get him unlocked, which is a 3-star, what do you need to do? Well, you basically, I love that there's a deselect all button, but there's not like a select all button. So essentially, you have to go and add every one of these scourges, and some of them are more important than others. I actually have past videos about which scourges are important, but I mean, at this point, because it's basically permanent, that in order to get them unlocked at the 3-star, you have to do more or less this. Maybe you could cut a few out because you need to get to 500k, right? And so difficulty 4 at 500k, that's what you're gonna have to do. And you're looking at characters that have about 30k ish power. What's interesting though is that you don't actually need to get the unlock anyways. You do not need to run the traded nodes because they don't require them. Like, it's not Bionic Avengers and Wakandans like it is on D5 or higher. So this part's really important, actually, that I don't know if everyone covered. So if you want the bare 3-star, you can do it like this. And you'll walk away with it, and you'll be able to get the 500k, right? And that's not going to get you a ton. It's not going to get you any red stars. But nonetheless, it will get you an unlock. It'll give you 105 shards. You'll get all of this stuff, and you'll be able to unlock all the characters at 3-star. I think what the biggest complaint is that in order to get to the 7, or even to get higher. So you have that's 3-star there. This is 4-star at 700k, and then I believe 5-star is 900k, and then you go all the way up to 1.35 million for the 7-star, and this 1.35 is pretty hard to get, and I think maybe that's where some people are upset that to get higher than a 5-star is very difficult, and some of them are being forced to build. I'm going to put it this way: forced to build the teams that, so for Pestilence, it was Web Warriors. For Famine, for Rogue, it was Young Avengers. Then it was Wave 1 Avengers and Asgardians. That one's pretty easy, actually, because the Asgardians is very easy with the new characters now. And with Death, it was Bionic Avengers and Wakandans. But you don't need to do that if you only want to get a 5-star. And this is going to be a very unpopular thing for me to say. And I think that rightly why people are angry, because they want to be able to work towards a 7-star. There's two things, right? If you want a 7-star, you are going to have to put in the work to build those teams. Does it suck? Absolutely, because they're shit teams for the most part, and they're not used. They've been outside the meta for a very long time, and you're not going to get any value out of them. Okay? So that's only if you want a 7-star. But why do you want a 7-star Horseman character? You don't need a 7-star Horseman character to unlock Apocalypse. Pretty sure I said that at the beginning, but I'm going to say it again anyways in case I missed out on that. Is that you don't need a 7-star Horseman character to unlock Apocalypse, big or small. And you're not going to get a 7 red on them anyways, because they're not Dark Promotion credit priorities. If you watched any of my recent videos, I did one actually not too long ago about Dark Promotion credit priorities, and the Horsemen are not on there. That being said, 5 yellow, 5 red is more than functional, more than fine. And it's pretty cheap, actually, to get a 5 red on them, including the trial characters as well. They're all like the same price. It's pretty cheap. It's like 1,200 or something, and maybe 2,000 to go all the way up to 5. But anyways, it's not that expensive to get. So how do you get a 5-star? Some might wonder. So let's go back. Let's go to, this is what I would recommend as the best path forward to get a 5-star. I already showed you a 3-star. I honestly think that people can get 3 stars pretty easily. I don't think it's going to be very difficult to unlock them, in which case you can already start to build towards them. to get to them to get them and the team to the point that you need to or want to for Apocalypse. Some people might want a 5-star though. For whatever reason, you might want it for stats wise, or maybe helping you in those campaign missions that you're doing for the actual apocalyptics, the apocalypse unlock, all of those other things, the sagas. But levels might help you there too, because the level cap was different and is going to be different soon with level 100 unlocking than it was in the past, which will make it significantly easier. And honestly, we don't know how much stats we're going to gain out of 96 through 100. It could be a massive leap. And therefore, the stars will be of less value because you'll be able to do it through the levels, right? You'll put in a little bit of gold instead of getting the stars. But my recommendation in terms, and this was probably mentioned by a few content creators already. I just want to make this very clear that this is the best way forward for new players or some mid-game players to get a 5-star without having to build the former teams. It might be unpopular, but if you do difficulty 8, and now I don't know if it's difficulty 8 in all the scourges. I'm gonna have to go back and check. But difficulty 8, and honestly, you probably don't even need to do all the scourges. But some of the scourges will probably help you. Honestly, the way that it scales up. But let's just assume, so you would need to get to set, what was it, 900k, right? And so if you do the first 4 nodes, you could do this at probably difficulty 8 on the majority of them by throwing on a handful of them and doing the first 4 nodes. This might vary in terms of how many scourge points you need to put on different scourges and things like that. But there's no rush in order to get those stars because you're not actually going to really need to use these characters until you start doing those scourge campaigns, the saga campaigns. The teams themselves are fairly crept to a degree. Like you're not using them as you're not going to need them in favor of some of the newer teams. The newer teams that are coming out right now, whether it's Superior 6 or Extreme X-Men or New Avengers or any ones like these. They're going to have significant more value now. And also with farmability, being pretty strict at 4 months now, they're doing pretty good at that when it comes to the farmability. That it's really not that big of a deal. So you can get through and get the 5-star. You can get the 3-star pretty easily anyways. Like you don't even need need those teams, the prescribed teams that I mentioned earlier to get the unlock. It's that if you want to get to the 5-star, I would recommend that you wait till you're a higher account level and then just go through the first 4 nodes. So the minion ones are actually really easy in the death campaign. It's just node 3 and 4, which is actually just hero, which is really, really easy to do. So you could just stack up. Trust me, the minions are actually pretty easy. You could do this at I think like high G12, pretty much. And so death at D8, when you just stack up, you need to throw on more scourges to get enough points that you're getting 900k in 4 nodes. But the first 4 nodes are very easy. You don't need to go to node 5. And this is the same for all the scourges. Like you can do D8 with high scourges and walk away for the most part with a 4 or 5-star. Maybe it won't be a 5-star for everyone, but it'll be at least a 4, maybe a 5, doing it this way. And you don't need to build the Web Warriors. You don't need to build the Young Avengers, and you don't need to build, whatever else, Bionic Avengers and Wakandans and all that, which is the huge complaint that people are having right now. Will you get a 7-star without building them? No. But we had to do that. And yeah, I know it sucks, because you're not getting the slow drip anymore. And this makes it sound like I don't care because I already have it. I have, on my main account, I have all the horsemen maxed out and I have Apocalypse, right? And I'm trying to be sympathetic to this, and I don't think that and I think that there's valid concerns there, but I just don't think that this is going to change. That being said, I would also consider that right now when it comes to the trial legendaries, because I think that there's a good possibility that if this is how they're going to do it for the Scourge events, that this is probably how they're going to do it for the trial legendaries as well. The good thing about that is that they might not drag their feet on, how they're going to decide to do the trial legendaries in the future. But they also they fixed the slow drip, right, in the trial legendaries. You might know. Actually, I'm not sure if they did it with Nova, but they definitely did it with Black Cat and with Green Goblin. Is that you had to build the teams, the prescribed teams, because it was on node 2, 5 and 10, or 6 and 10. I don't know. I don't remember. But it's 3 nodes that you had to use them, is specifically on node 2. So you couldn't do this first 4 node thing that a lot of us are recommending or that we did in the past. That's not a possibility on the trial legendaries. And so the reason why I'm mentioning this is because that is still an option for the horseman characters and something that I highly recommend. Because no, you shouldn't be building Web Warriors, Young Avengers, or any of those other garbage teams. Because you're not going to have no value. It's a waste of gold, waste of resources. You should be focusing on the things that are in front of you right now, like Extreme X-Men, like Hive Mind coming soon, like some of the recent farmable teams, New Avengers, Pegasus coming soon. These are all teams that you should be focusing on rather than those old pieces of junk. And arguably, the Horseman teams, while I want to call them pieces of junk, as a veteran, I'm still using them. But, I don't think it's something that, if it wasn't for Apocalypse, I wouldn't even consider doing. And there's a stream of thought where actually that it might not be worth it as a main priority. This one's going to be very controversial, which is why I left it towards the end. And I don't know where he is on my roster because it'd be like right there at the bottom. I'm not going to be able to find it. But Apocalypse, I'll talk while I'm scrolling. Super Skrull, I honestly believe that if you put your efforts into newer characters, into grinding, given what I know about how long it takes you to get your account level up, even free to play, that you're probably going to be able to unlock Super Skrull before you unlock Apocalypse at the current rate of gain for blue 4 and 5 ions. I'm assuming that you're not going to put 100% of your resources into the Apocalypse teams. Therefore, it's going to be a little bit of a half and half split now, which is going to make you take longer to be able to get those characters that you need up to the big Apocalypse stage. At that point, Mephisto is going to be out when you could have already been building your characters towards Dark Dimension 6, unlocking Super Skrull, and maybe preparing yourself for Mephisto in Dark Dimension 7. Is that going to take a while? Dark Dimension 7, of course. But for Dark Dimension 6, more and more people are getting it every day. Over 10,000 people, actually over like 9,500 the last time I checked, maybe it's about 10,000 now, that have Super Skrull, which might not be a lot, but it's growing every single day. And actually, I'm honestly pretty on the fence about this because I think that it might be worth pursuing your Dark Dimension climb rather than the Apocalypse climb, because you can't really grind for Apocalypse, if that makes sense. You need to wait for the blue 4 and 5 ions to come in with that drip, and you're going to need to put some of that away already to your raid teams, your existing raid teams, not the Apocalypse teams. So that's a little bit of a problem in itself. Now that we need, for Incursion 2, for example, if you eventually get up there, you're going to need blue 4 in your raid teams. So that's blue 4 that you can't put on your Apocalypse teams. And so that's a little bit of a problem. And I actually strongly believe that, you could run a Skrull Arena team without Apocalypse and still win. It's a crazy thought, I know. So I'm personally in favor of the Dark Dimension climb than the Apocalypse climb for new players now, because by the time you do all this stuff for Apocalypse, all right, you're going to be a bit behind. You're going to be like 6 to 9 months behind of the new content, and that's not good. Just my thoughts. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below what you think. I don't think the sky is falling. I don't think this is worth quitting over in Marvel Strike Force. I think that just people are being a bit emotional about this, and they're not really thinking logical about, where they should be putting their priorities. Just me. Let me know in the comments down below, of course. And until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.